Explore your identity with Tayameaca. Hello and welcome to another episode of Explore Your Identity. Here we delve into conversations about different aspects of our identity, both positive and negative, that have influenced who we are. I'm your host, Tayameaca, and today I have another incredible guest. I just want to give a special thank you to Amina Atiq for being here today. Welcome, Amina, and thank you for being my guest today.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
How are you today?
How am I? Well, I'm fasting, so my energy's up. I'm looking forward to iftar. I'm breaking my fast.
Amazing. Thank you for allowing this conversation during your fast.
Well, as always, they always say, starving your stomach does not make you richer or poorer.
Wow. Amazing.
It just makes you more kind of grounded.
Yes.
Because I didn't realise how much you actually think about food throughout the day.
And what about the smell? It doesn't bother you?
No, I just smell my lip gloss.
Wow. That's amazing. That takes strength, definitely. But it's definitely good for you. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Just makes you think about what's going on around the world a little bit more. There's a lot of self-reflection.
Definitely. And it kind of takes you out of self, and you have to kind of have that strength within, that discipline and strength within self for a higher purpose.
Of course. And obviously as a Muslim, our higher purpose is also to pray, and faith is a big part of my life,
Amazing.
Yeah.
So I always like to start with a little bit about your background. Can you reflect on any particular moment or situation in your childhood that you feel has shaped who you are today? It could be something positive, it could be something negative.
Yeah, so, we have a lot of family photographs. So I always base memory on things that are kind of tangible or things that are physical.
Yes.
And I was looking at a photograph just a few days, and it's a photograph of when I'm dressed in this puffy dress, and I've got these gold and black stone necklace.
Nice.
And I asked my mum, what's the origin of the clothing? And she said, well, your dad used to send a lot of clothes from the UK, because I was born in Yemen and my dad was in the UK at the time. So he used to send us these fancy British puffy.
Oh, like Victorian puffy sleeves
Exactly.
and the collars and everything.
And my mum used to add all these big Yemeni jewels around the neck.
Oh, wow. I like that. It was just kind of two worlds coming together, even from your childhood.
Exactly. And everything I do now, my work and my career, is all about that. It's all about how do two identities come together, and where you don't have to sacrifice one for the other.
Amazing.
When really they can have a home for both.
They can have a home, but I almost, because I can relate to that myself, I almost feel like there's challenges that are attached to bringing two worlds together to form identity or identities, because they are layers, aren't they?
Well, they exist.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's something that I constantly tell children who I work with, especially who are bilingual or multi-heritage, or, I always tell to them, your existence is you.
Yes.
So if you are Scouse, Muslim, Arab, Yemeni,
that is you.
That is you.
Yeah.
So you don't have to struggle with what you are, because you are already in existence of who you are.
And you know what? I'm through doing this podcast, I'm getting to realize and understand in depth that when it comes to people's different characteristics, you could have the same characteristics as another individual.
Yeah.
But the identity experience is completely different. Yeah. Whereas the world tends to put us all in different boxes and
Also, I think it's because we've given the world permission to do that too. And this is where education comes into place and policy making. where do the laws protect us and our identities? It's like if I type in Yemen on Google search,
Yes.
I'm not going to get a very pretty image. I'm going to get AK-47, child marriages, terrorism. But that's not that's not very representative of my whole country.
Your experience, your identity.
Well, I just typed in Yemen. I didn't really type in Yemen terrorism. But if I put United Kingdom into Google, it will show me the Big Ben, the London Bridge, the royal family. When really, if it really showed the negative part of the UK, you would see knife crime, you would see homelessness. So I guess my thing is, well, if Google can't even represent countries in the most realistic way, what is our role as human beings and activists and artists and writers and educators? Because at the end of the day, our children are using the internet.
Yeah. So take me back to like your family structure. What was that like? And because you said you were born in Yemen, I'm quite interested in hearing just a glimpse of how you've kind of managed to, not so much the migration, but that identity part of it. Yeah.
So my dad was born in the UK. So my granddad came to the UK in around 1966, just before World War II, which a lot of Yemeni men actually migrated at that time. So because my dad was born here, he then went back to Yemen in his 20s to marry my mother. But as you know, migration papers take a while. So my mum got pregnant and she had me. So I'm very grateful to have had my early childhood in Yemen, because I think it's allowed me to have this connection with home in a very different way than my siblings who were born here. I'm a lot more vocal about Yemen. Also, the Arabic language is a lot more thicker on my tongue, because I think that was my first language.
Do you have lots of good memories of
I do.
Of your childhood?
Especially through
there?
Pictures.
Oh,
My mum used to dress me up. She just loved dressing me up in these like different colour shapes. I mean, you could tell like it's travelled 20 years later.
Yeah, you definitely have style. Definitely. Yeah.
But my earliest memories of my mother, I remember I had this curtain. It was like purple. And it was like fluffy. And 3 weeks later, my mum's made a dress out of it because she no longer wants the curtain.
So does she know how to make stuff?
So mum knows how to sew and
good.
do things.
Did she teach you?
A little bit. I mean, I can do like, emergency.
Yeah, like hemming and just the basics.
If the dress rips before a wedding and you need an emergency, I can do that.
Oh, good.
But so when I saw my mum do that, I was like, how does she turn my curtains into a dress? But so.
Oh, wow.
My childhood was nice. It was fun. It was loved.
Yeah.
I was loved by my grandparents.
Do you feel that if you had not had that experience, that childhood, and because later on, here you are part of the community in Liverpool, and do you think that you having that connection with Yemen from a younger age had a positive experience or negative experience to when you compare the two worlds and you as an adult now?
I think what happens is when we migrated to the UK, and this is just reflection looking back, is that, you start to learn a new language, which was English.
Yeah.
People around you are different. The culture is different. So I think what you start to do is no one ever taught you that you can have both identities sit together. It's like you had to sacrifice one for the other.
Is that what society was bringing on you?
I think that's for a lot of immigrants, like you, especially because you no longer hold your Yemeni passport, you have a British passport. So really there's like a physical and psychological effect in how your environment shapes you, because now you're British. So there's replacements. But I think that psychological effect of like self-belief and like resilience of like, actually, I can still be Yemeni. And what's interesting is we're so Yemeni at home in Britain, but as soon as we get out of our home, it's like we integrate and we have to be so British. So I think I struggled with what that meant and how that was, because there was an expectation that you had to fulfill that Yemeni identity, but then there was an expectation from the outside world that you had to be British. So I think doing both separately was more difficult. But when you start to emerge them, they become a beautiful creation.
At a young age, it's hard for you to kind of, in your own mind, I can imagine that would have been hard to articulate it the way you articulate it now.
Oh, of course.
So what would have been going on? Like, I can imagine that, like you've said, that in your home, you kind of you uphold your culture, that identity. And then outside of your home, there's another layer of identity that's almost like pushed onto you. Well, how did you navigate that?
You're a child, you move, don't you? Like, you're so innocent, you're so playful, you just play with things that are around you. Mm-hmm. But I think it's when someone tells you that you're not British, that's when you realise there's something wrong.
As a child, definitely.
So when I went into secondary school, which was 3-4 miles away from home, that was the first time I'd faced a form of Islamophobia or racism. So what had happened in that moment, that's when I realised, actually, am I British enough? Because they're telling me now that I'm not. And this is not just my own individual story. This is a story that a lot of people can relate to.
Where did you find strength? Were you able to get strength at home?
I mean, I am my mother's daughter.
Yes.
I am Yemeni. So that comes from that. But also, injustice is rooted in my faith. So as a Muslim, injustice is such a big thing that we're taught about, that we defend when we see oppression. And also because of, I think, the way I grew up, I just always had this passion in my stomach that if I see something wrong or hateful comments or just something that just doesn't sit right, I would always be the first to question it.
And so that was from a younger age?
Yeah, definitely.
That's
it got me into a lot of trouble.
That makes sense, yeah.
A lot of trouble there, but it also put me in situations where my life was at risk of knife crime.
Like, you mean like out and about?
Yeah, so I a young lad who had basically physically and verbally was quite racist to us going to school. I defended myself against him one day and he'd basically battered me, like bruised my face. But a few weeks later, what had happened, I got off the bus at 8:30 a.m. and he was waiting for me. And in that instinct, I knew he was waiting for me because he had something in his hand he was holding. And this is Queen's Drive. If people know it, it's a busy road. I just took my instinct that something is going wrong. And he basically like done something. I can see something sharp come out. And what I'd done in that moment is, Amina, cross the road. And that's what I did in that moment. I just literally crossed the road and the cars just beeped. I mean, I would rather have lost my life in a car accident.
Trying to defend yourself.
Myself, definitely.
Wow.
And I'm not scared of death. I'm going to face my Lord at the end of the day, but it's more about, it's that injustice. You're not going to kill me in vain or harm me in vain, or that's not human life.
At that age, like going back to what that particular instance that you've just talked about, do you think your faith had a part in you having the strength to actually have that instinct?
Of course. I mean, we pray 5 times a day and I didn't really understand the value of it when I was growing up, but now as an adult, my anxiety, since I put my belief in God, my anxiety just disappears because I just know that everything will be okay.
The peace.
Yeah. That peace of mind.
Yeah.
Especially because I've got fire constantly and I'm like worrying about everyone and everything, especially being the oldest daughter of an immigrant family. But now I'm just so grateful I get to like pray 5 times a day. I get to believe that there's just something more powerful than all of this.
Yes.
And that just gives me a peace of mind.
So it sounds like your activism started from a younger age and you probably didn't realize then that you were being an activist. But I guess standing up for yourself, that alone is that action of you kind of making a decision that my life is in danger, I need to do something. That is a form of you kind of standing up for yourself, really.
I mean, there was two options. I could have just kept quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that my mum said, like, why don't you just keep quiet? That way your life wouldn't be in danger. But then I'm like, if no one ever stops injustice, then we will never see change.
And do you feel like the generation before you would have done that, just kept quiet and not done anything?
I think also because looking back at when my dad was brought up in the 80s, there was nothing that would have protected them as much as now. Like, I feel like our young people today they're more understanding of our rights.
And how was it? Because you've gone out of your way to learn, or is it because of your interest in activism in the community, or how have you got to that point?
Lived experience, definitely. Education. I think also through the work of being an artist, I've been able to collaborate with art organisations across the country. So knowing what they do within activism and art. I mean, the Anthony Walker Foundation is a great organisation. And obviously, as we know, Anthony Walker, may he rest in peace, was murdered at a bus stop. So the bus stop is very symbolic in my own life because that's where a lot of the hate crimes would occur. But, you know, I'm 28 now and I'm in that era of my life where I'm celebrating and I'm joyful.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes what happens is that is not just my childhood. My childhood was, as soon as, you know, I've had a very, I mean, after that situation with that knife crime, I'd actually just brushed it off. I didn't realise how, until I actually
serious it was. Yeah.
But when I went home, I got home to my family. My mum made our favourite Yemeni dishes. As in, like, life moves on, and I realised actually I have a home that is safe, and I'm very grateful to that.
Exactly.
And,
I like that, what you've just said, that you're grateful for that, because I was just, as you speaking, I'm just imagining somebody else going through a similar experience and then not being safe at home. So you were safe at home.
I mean, that can be a metaphor for bigger issues of war and conflict. You know, your home is destroyed, where'd you go? You know, and then there's injustice internally within within the country. And I think of Yemen as my home country that's going through this right now. So I am grateful. But I guess for my question is, now that I'm aware, what do I do about it?
Yes.
What impact can I make? What policies can I influence? And because I want my siblings, my sisters, my brothers, the next generation to have you know, a safer world to live in, whether that is environmentally as well, whether that is psychologically, physically, mentally. That is a responsibility. And that comes also as a Muslim, like, there's this idea of when you have the knowledge, you're responsible now.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's a conscious decision that I have to make every day when I wake up. What can I do to make impact today?
Wow. I could have this conversation, like I could keep asking you loads of questions, and there's so much I want to hear, but let's celebrate you.
Yeah.
Let's take a moment to just celebrate
Let's celebrate
you.
us.
Yes.
Yeah,
Let's
celebrate us for being
here.
here.
It's still Women's Month after all,
I
isn't
know.
it? Yeah.
You know what? It's every month.
Exactly. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
I feel like it's Women's Day every day.
I mean, as a fashion designer, I think, do you wake up every day like thinking, I mean, tell me about your day as a fashion designer. How do you wake up every day?
So what I do to make life easy for myself is I've got a calendar and a colour for each day of the week.
No way.
And that takes away that whole thinking about what do I wear today? What do I wear?
I love that.
But saying that, before I carry on about my calendar, most designers just wear boring clothes, don't they?
Yeah, black.
I'm not one of them. But yeah, so Monday's got its own colour, right, the whole week. So I literally go by that, which makes life so much easier, because I feel like on a day-to-day, I've got so many decisions to make. Got 2 young children as well to look after, and a husband that needs looking after too. So yeah, on a day-to-day, I have so many things that I'm responsible for that I need to think about. And the last thing I want to do is think about what to wear. So just having that colour means that I can literally think, okay, today's a green day, and just
doesn't the weather impact?
Well, no, because within that colour, I've got autumn, winter, summer, spring. So literally,
so you get to experience it
yeah,
all.
and I do every 6 months. I kind of swap my wardrobe around. So I put away like winter stuff and then bring out the summer stuff.
Oh, I
so
love it.
whatever's out is always in season. So,
I love that. You know what? I'm going to try that.
Try it. It makes life easier.
I dress up in the morning with how the weather is and how I feel.
Yeah.
But I don't like that because I feel like there's that power over me.
Yes.
I should take power.
That's what I've done. I've taken my power back. So even when the weather is awful, if it's a yellow day, right, I'm wearing yellow fair. Yeah. Basically,
Yeah. No, I love that. I'm going to try that.
Yeah. But yeah, like just looking at your bio and everything you've done. One thing I did before I got here, before I sat down to have this conversation with you, I literally like watched your Eurovision performance. I call it a performance.
Yeah, it's a performance.
And it still gives me goosebumps right now. You. Like literally just watching it, you did something amazing there.
Yeah, it was.
That is legacy. You might not be aware of it, but literally like that. If anybody is watching or listening, right, I challenge you to just Google it or look on YouTube. Yeah. Amina Atiq's performance at Eurovision. Yeah. It was just amazing. I still literally get goosebumps.
No, you know what? It was an incredible day. I really loved it. I think, there was about 30,000 people in the audience. People have asked me in the past, like, especially children when they've seen the video in school, what was it like? And I've performed many times on the St. George's Steps. Mm-hmm. And the last time I performed there was at an anti-fascist group rally.
Yes, I remember that rally. Yeah.
And for me, as a poet, I think whether it's 30,000 people or 100 people, it's about what is your message.
Yes.
And I love that there's something symbolic in my own career or my journey as a performer where I've performed so many times at St. George's Steps. So it's been quite symbolic for me. I'm quite grateful for that opportunity. I was quite nervous as well.
Wow. No,
I was wearing heels as well.
You did amazing. Yeah. You did really, really amazing. So you're a published poet, performance artist, creative cultural practitioner, curious minds, anti-racism advisory member. The bio is this big. Like you've achieved so much, and I celebrate you and honor you today. Honestly, the world needs to continue to hear your poetry because it's not just a sound that you hear, but it's power.
It's a gift.
It's a gift that you share with us.
And you know what? I'm going to turn it back. I wouldn't have been able to achieve all of that without mentors. And I think people undermine when we talk about mentors. Mentorship is so important.
But how does one access mentorship? Because does it just happen or how does it happen?
I think you have to be open to receive support. Mm-hmm. I mean, we constantly as human beings tend to want to help, but it's how you want to be open about receiving support.
Yeah.
And that's what I've learned is be open, ask. Also be inspired, like be around people that have experience. And it doesn't have to be older. It could be your own age group too. But it all has to come from you. How open are you?
Do you have like one mentor or several different ones?
I've had several different ones over the years.
Depending on the part of your journey. Yeah.
And some of them are still in my life and I can just call them or text them and say, hey, what do I do with this? And they just... And I'm very grateful to that.
So you've got to be coachable and teachable and not have that I know it all kind of attitude.
You've got to be very like grounded and humble. Like there's growth that is needed. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But I also give it back to my mother. I wouldn't be able to be in this career if my mother hadn't come up to me and said, hey, I can see that you like taking pictures on your little small Nokia phone. Let me buy you a camera. So she bought me a £500 camera, which was very expensive at the time.
Wow.
Still expensive.
Was it because she saw something in
Yeah.
you?
She really did. I think because my mum has that creative element in her own skillship. And since the age of 16, I've been taking photographs.
Wow.
And that's where I started to become a freelancer.
Mm-hmm.
So I started doing engagements, weddings.
Wow. So what are you currently involved in at the moment?
I'm currently doing a lot of facilitation. So I work around the UK delivering workshops around social change and literacy, because we want young people
like
to...
more policy change, or it depends on...
It could be that eventually, if young people feel inspired to. But I think the idea is for young people to be like more self-expressive.
Through creative art?
Yeah, creative writing.
Amazing.
So I do a lot with schools at the moment. And I think currently I'm really excited, but I'm going to be a residence at the Isle of Man at a festival called Manx Festival, if I'm saying it correctly. So I'm really looking forward to that. So I'll spend 4 days at the island as a guest writer, delivering and performing. I'm also going to be on an online webinar in New York with some university researchers based in the UK, where I'm going to be sharing my poetry around motherhood, but it was a poem inspired by an artifact from the 18th century.
Amazing.
Which where basically the artifact was a letter from basically a slave owner who's demanding the mother.
Wow.
So I wrote a poem where the mother responds.
I love that.
Because we never hear about the enslaved mothers.
That is so true.
So I wrote a poem where the mother responds to the slave owner as if, you know, you can take this, but you cannot take my motherhood. Because as you know, during slavery, a lot of women were, you know, impregnated, if I'm saying that right, by slave owners. So obviously that's quite sad in itself, because that involves sexual abuse. But yeah, so I'm really happy to be able to like just show that poetry is not just about writing and performing. There's a research element in it.
Yes.
You're educating. You're looking at historical moments that are important.
That's what I like about your work, because you actually put everything into context and you can hear it. Your work does really show that you put some research into it.
Yeah, I love researching. I need to back it up.
Yeah, no, it's
also,
important. It makes it even more meaningful.
There's a process, isn't there? It's like with fashion, right? You have to cut and do the cutting.
Lots of research. Like literally the cutting and the making is the end process.
Yeah.
There's always research behind it. Like usually I can literally tell you why I created an item, what was the reason behind that particular design. Yeah. And that is through research.
Of course. I mean, creative process is important, isn't it?
Yeah. How can people get in contact with you or your work that you're doing, or keep up with some of the stuff that you're currently doing? I'm
quite active on not TikTok, not yet, but Instagram. So it's Amina Atiq Artist. But if anyone wants to contact me professionally, it's through my website.
And I'll put all the links to your socials as well on this episode.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you.
Oh, brilliant. So what's next? You've just told me about a whole lot of stuff that you're working on. This is like this year, right?
Yeah, this year.
Okay. So just to round it up, because I don't want to take too much of your time, I hope you come back another time for another conversation, like a part 2.
We have to sync in with our outfits as well.
Literally. I'll make sure you get the memo like you did today, right?
Just tell me what day it is.
Oh, yes. I'll tell you what color
Friday is green.
So it's a Green Friday. Green Friday.
Okay.
So I always like to end with like fashion-related fun questions. And my first question for you is there any unusual, weird, or something unexpected that you walk around with in your handbag or always on you?
I don't know if it's unusual, but I always have to take my floss.
Floss? Like dental floss?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I can't the idea of food stuck in my teeth throughout the day.
Oh, okay.
So I floss like a lot.
Is this like something you do now or you've always done?
No, I did it as soon as I had to fix my teeth.
Oh, okay. So now
So I realised like the maintenance of keeping your teeth clean, flossing is important. So please floss your teeth.
My floss stays right next to my bed, but I don't use it as often as I should.
Yeah, that's always in my bag.
Yeah.
Especially because my days are so long and I'm travelling on trains. I don't get home till late night, so I need to floss my dinner out.
Oh, cool. And have you got any item of clothing or accessory that you feel emotionally attached to?
I think in general it's gold.
Oh, okay.
Normally we're gifted gold from a young age.
Nice.
By our parents because they see it as an investment.
Yes.
So that when you grow older and you need to, I don't know, buy yourself something that is worthy, you can sell the gold. So I always have gold on.
Nice. It's my favorite color.
Yeah. Also because I'm allergic to like other like jewelry material.
Yeah.
So I can only really wear gold. As my mother always said, you're expensive.
Of course. I love that.
Yeah.
Have you got a memorable fashion experience or any item that you particularly like shopping for? Or do you even like shopping?
It's a hard one. I don't like shopping, but I like buying.
Okay. What's the difference?
Like, I'm going to go into the shop to get what I need.
Okay. So you always know what you want.
I don't like the whole idea of window shopping.
Okay.
Like, I like to do a bit of research online first and then go and get what
so
I need.
Usually if you're out shopping, it's because you're looking for particular, you're not one to just like window shop.
It just gives me a headache, window shopping. It's like, why am I dreaming in this little fog? Yeah. Like, sometimes I do. I don't know. It depends, you know.
So once you buy an item, it's because you like the item and then you get joy out of
when I like something, I make the effort to get it. And I think that comes from my father because my father's very unmaterialistic.
Yeah,
but I grew up very materialistic. So I'm trying to find the balance.
Okay.
But I tend to always buy mugs.
Oh, how many have you got?
I've got loads.
Have you counted them?
I've got loads and I don't know why, like buying a new mug makes me very happy.
Oh, good.
I just bought a new one. It had like sunflowers on it. And
so like, do you always get attached to the latest one or you just buy them and then
I just
use
buy them
whichever
the way
one?
it looks.
Oh,
and then,
okay.
like now that I've got a sunflower mug, I'm just like constantly having like a caramel latte because it's...
Oh, cool. Do you hate shopping for anything in particular?
I think because I'm 5'1" and I'm wide-hipped, there's a lot of the fashion is not very tailored to my body type. So it's very difficult. And I think that's why I don't like shopping, is because when I go to the dressing room, things just don't sit right. So I think that's where it's... And I think that, gives you like low self-esteem because it's like, oh, why is nothing?
Yeah. So do you ever just buy stuff and then just get it like taken in and stuff like that?
Tailored and it's quite annoying, isn't it? But I think now we're better because I think there's a lot of like plus size fashion models and activists who are pushing for more diversity.
Yes.
So I do go to certain shops where they do have now like short length, wide pants. But yeah.
Cool. And last but not least, have you got a fashion related question for me?
Oh, well, I did ask before, didn't I, about how your morning looks like?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So that was your question for me.
It was.
I've answered that one, haven't I?
Yeah, but you know what? I'm also interested, which we spoke about creative process, but where was your pinpoint in your career where you thought, being a fashion designer, like where you could call yourself, I'm a fashion designer?
Well, the thing is, that's an interesting question because I actually call myself a fashion artist.
Okay.
So at the start of my fashion journey, I called myself a designer and I was designing clothes, accessories. But along that journey, I realized that my aesthetic and my kind of work doesn't fit into the mold of just fashion design. It's also got that artistic element because I do like creating like wearable art and anything that's that's got like an artistic flair to it.
Of course.
So now I call myself a fashion artist.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you remember, we actually met last year.
When you bought the, it was like a kimono, wasn't it? Yes, yeah. And that was before Eurovision.
Yeah, that was before Eurovision. And obviously I live on Smithtown, so I looked at the shop and I was like, oh, this is fancy. I came in, because we don't really get fancy shops on Smithtown Road. So I walked in and I was like, oh, I really like this kimono. Especially because the length and the width of it.
And it was nice. It had some blue in it.
I always get complimented.
Oh, good.
I think because it's so bright and I think it's also the shape of it, like it's like 3D.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad it brings you joy.
Well, it does. You know what? Like I said, as soon as I have something my eyes look at and I'm like,
yes,
yeah. But well, thank you for creating things that are joyful.
Well, thank you for being my amazing guest today. We've come to the end, and we've come to the end of this episode of Explore Your Identity. I just want to extend a heartfelt thank you to all our viewers and our listeners. Your support means the world to us. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you got value out of this episode, please share it with others. And don't forget, you can go on our channel and watch other identity episodes. And remember to keep exploring your identity. Bye for now. Explore your identity.